Hello, beautiful. It's good to see you. I'm inside today. It's not actually raining, but it's kind of cold and desultory. And there's not much happening in the garden, and I have this feeling that I'm going to track a whole lot of stuff in from the outside world, which is kind of damp and wet and everything, into the house. And so I've decided to stay inside. And those of you that have watched my lives for however long know that if I'm staying inside, it means we're going to do rocks. So here I am with a rock. Because I do have rocks, and I used to show them off every day when the weather was bad, but now I just get to do it occasionally. This is a big old piece of citrine. And it's real citrine. It's not the sort that's been, that started off being amethyst and then it gets heated and then it turns that bright orange. No, this is actually natural citrine, which is kind of golden coloured. And I don't know what makes it go that colour, but there you go. And if you're wondering why the words in my post say we're talking about brains and now I'm suddenly doing rocks, it's because this is a Facebook Live, and Facebook Lives take a little time to get onto Facebook, and then my beloved husband shares them out for me into the different groups that I'm in. So this is the time that I take to let everybody come on if they want to. My name is Oneness Evolving, and I'm here talking about the writing that I've been doing this week, today, this morning, for the God of Me project. And God of Me is about being God of me, about being boss of me, about being able to change me, about being able to make a difference in my life. Because ultimately, we all want to be our own boss. We want to be able to change the things about ourselves that we don't like very much, or the experiences that we've had that have, scarred us in some way. We want to be able to change those. Well, how do you do that? That's what God of Me is about. But before I get into that, here's the citrine, right? It's pretty cool. You can see inside it. And I like to just sort of move it around a bit so that everybody can see. And it looks like this was, a free geode. It's got a little label on it, and the label says ZM, which means it came from Zambia, because I know the code from the person that sold it to me, 478B, Smoky Citrine, Zambia. What do you know? So obviously it was broken out of a larger geode, and it's really quite groovy, cool back. That's one of our rocks today, is just this lovely smoky citrine. And the other one, when I was thinking, well, what's the other one going to be? I saw in my mind a picture of something bluey green, and I thought, fuchsite. So this is ruby fuchsite. And yeah, that is ruby. And the rest of this has got a lot of copper in it, which is why it's green. And it's kind of, I don't know how well you can see. I've got to find the right spot. See the spot here? It's kind of sparkly. And it's rough, because fuchsite is got a lot of mica in it. It's one of those. It's a mineral it's got a similar structure to mica. In fact, it's probably a kind of mica, but I don't really know enough about it. So this piece is quite rough, and then it's got bits of ruby in it, and you can see the beautiful green color. And then there's another interesting little bit on the bottom. That isn't quite so rough, but clearly it's a stone that's made up a lot of different things. So. And I had to bring its little malachite stand. Somebody crafted a stand for it. Well, not for it specifically, but it's a little stand that's made out of malachite. And I had to do that because otherwise it would roll. So now I'm going to start talking about what I wrote this week. Hello, beautiful people. It's lovely to see you. Come on. I really love having a conversation when I'm doing these lives. It's just more fun. So I've been writing about our conscious mind and our unconscious mind. And I've been talking about our conscious mind and our unconscious mind in these lives. And the reason why our conscious mind and our unconscious mind matter when you're talking about changing something about yourself that you don't like, that you have tried and tried and tried to change, and I know what that's like, is because at least I did, I used to think, because, it's like with what all of the sort of mind control and the create your future and the, success people were talking about is you got to think positively, and you got to do your affirmations, and you got to focus on the thing you want every day and just keep focusing and focusing and focusing with all this mental effort. And when I used to think about that, even think about it, there was this enormous resistance that I thought it came up in my mind that just said, no! And it was impossible. I had no idea. I mean, I just couldn't do that. I couldn't do that positive thinking stuff. I couldn't make it happen. Hello, beautifuls. It just wasn't possible. And what I didn't understand is that the part of us that thinks, the part of us that we know about, our conscious analytical mind, it only comes online sometime. I mean, we have it by at least by the time we're age 7. Some people, they develop their analytical mind a little sooner. And I think some, it's pretty much by the age of 7, you've got an analytical mind. And that is the mind that we use to think about stuff that we think about. But there's an awful lot that we don't think about. And all of that is run by our unconscious mind. And our unconscious mind gets installed in our first 7 years. And for the first 2 years of our life, we are asleep with our eyes open, if we're not sleeping. And then for the next 5 years of our life, or 3 to 5 years, how long it takes, we are in hypnosis. Because it takes that long to learn how to be human, and we just need to get all that information uploaded into our nervous system like an operating system that tells us how to be human. So what I didn't understand is that when I was trying to think positively and I was thinking, no, this is bullshit, I hate it, this is wrong, and it just used to make me feel angry. I did not understand that all of that resistance, all of those thoughts and all of those feelings, it wasn't just thoughts, it was feelings and rage. That was my 95% of me that I didn't know was there. That was my unconscious body mind saying, are you kidding? You don't believe that. That's not true. That's rubbish. You can't do that, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff that goes on, that chatter in our head. It's not in the conscious mind. It's everywhere else. So I've been explaining about that. And I did my first chunk of explaining about the conscious, the analytical mind that we get sometime around the age 7 or a bit before, but at least by age 7. I talked about that last week, and I looked at what I wrote this week, and tidied it up a little bit, but really it was good. And so then I wanted to talk again about the unconscious mind. Now, bear in mind, I've just finished talking about we get born and our brain is in delta for our first 2 years, delta brain waves, and you have to go back and look on YouTube or go to the God of Me on Patreon, and you can find all that stuff there. Hello, Robin. So I've talked about delta brainwaves, I've talked about theta brainwaves. That's what our brain is mostly doing for our first 7 years. And then when we start to speed up into alpha brainwaves and then beta brainwaves, we get our conscious mind, and now we can have an opinion, and we can think, and we can be ethical, or we can create, or we can judge, or anything. We can do that, but that's the 5% of us that we know about. The other 95% is unconscious, and it's in our body mind, and we got it in our first 7 years. And we keep building on it and developing it through our entire life if we understand it. Because, and this is the piece I was writing about, so what is our 95%? And what does it do for us all day long, right? What does it do? And so I came up with some examples, and I wrote them down for me on my little notepad so I didn't forget. So imagine you're walking on a footpath, and it's a path that you know well, and it's, it might be just a sidewalk if you're in a city street, or it might be in the bush, but it's a really nice open path, wherever, somewhere you really know. And you know every rock and tree or every building, every set of shops, and you're just walking along, and at the same time you're thinking about something really intently, something really, it's got all of your attention. Then you're walking along, and you are, turning the corner, and, there's a rock on the path, and I'm going to walk around that, and, there's some people, I'm going to walk around those, and, it's got cold. And I'm carrying my jacket, but I'm going to put my jacket on now. But you're thinking about this problem that this whatever, this thing you're creating, or this problem you're solving. Your attention is fully on that thing because your brain is an alpha and you're inside your own mind and you're thinking about what you're thinking about. Who's running your body while you're walking? Who's noticing that there's a person there that you have to walk around? How does your body know to put on that jacket when it's got cold? How does your body know that it's cold? You're not thinking about any of that. Your unconscious mind is doing that. It's actually your body mind. I start off by saying unconscious mind, but it's actually the body mind. It's not just from here up. Memories, the 95%, is from here down, really. In fact, it's more than that. So that's the first example. A second one for anybody who does sports, which was never me, by the way. I was big into music, and I never did sports, which I kind of would have been good for me. But never mind. That was how it happened. So imagine your team sport, right? And I'd chosen football because most people know what football is, and it's like football. And you're standing in the middle of the field and your coach is talking and the coach is saying something that's interesting and the whole team's engaged and, and they're talking about a strategy and we're going to practice this play or Joe does this kick and John does that one and, we're going to do this, right? And the only person that's not really paying attention is your friend. Your friend has a ball and your friend throws you the ball and you're paying attention to the coach. But you reach out and catch the ball without really paying much attention at all. How did you catch the ball? How did you know that your friend threw you the ball when you were paying attention to the coach? Well, there's parts of your visual brain that don't require your conscious participation to operate. They notice movement. Oh, there's something coming. You just catch the ball. Don't think about it. Unconscious body does that. And this is the connection that I wanted to make because we think often that the unconscious body mind is about, skills or things we do with our body. But it's more than that. It's about our emotions and how we feel. And I thought, what's an example of that? And I actually wrote it twice because the first time I got it wrong. And here's an example. So you wake up in the morning and most people, when they wake up, there is a moment, there's a short period of time when, you're coming out of theta, because remember, when we're between sleeping and waking, we're in theta brainwaves. And we don't know whether our dreams are real or not, but we wake up out of theta and it's like, oh yeah, I'm awake. And then most people, again, generalizations, lie in bed for a little while, wherever you are, and you relax for a bit and you just kind of let your mind wander. And for some people, that letting your mind wander thing lasts for about 1 second, and sometimes it lasts for two minutes before a memory of someone painful or whatever. Let's say, and this is what I wrote, somebody who hurt you 2 years ago comes into your mind. And then suddenly you're feeling sad and you're feeling angry. You were feeling fine before, then you had the thought. And now you're feeling sad and angry. So when you had that memory of that person, that memory is a set of neurons in your brain that's hooked up. And when that set of neurons fire, there's chemistry that happens as a result of that firing. You play the memory, you play the memory and the chemistry pours. It's automatic. It's got to happen. You can't have the memory without the chemistry, because when the memory fires, there's an electrical thing that goes on in your brain, and because of the electricity passing from neuron to neuron, chemistry gets released. You can't have a thought without making a chemical, period. And that chemical goes through other centers of your brain and then pours chemistry into your body that makes you feel like that thought. And here's the thing, you're lying in bed relaxing. You didn't really pay attention to the fact that you remember that person. In fact, you might have been thinking about somebody who was connected to that person and you never really noticed that you were thinking about that person at all. But that thought got fired, perhaps just a little bit. But now you're feeling angry and sad. You don't even know why. And the next morning, the same thing happens. And the next morning, the same thing happens. And especially, if when the thing happened 2 years ago, it was really horrible. Well, of course, you're going to remember it first thing when you get up in the morning or wake up in the morning. And what happens is, remember, anything that we do often becomes a habit, becomes entrenched, it becomes automatic. Like walking, we don't think about walking, we just do it. And so you wake up. And you're in theta and you're relaxed, and then your mind starts to wander, because that's what you do when you wake up. You lie in bed and you think a little bit, and before you know it, you're feeling angry and sad. You haven't even noticed that you thought that thought and you made that chemistry, because your body's just doing it for you. Our bodies do our emotions for us, and sometimes we know, I thought of that person and now I feel like shit. And sometimes We don't know. Because the little thing that makes the memory fire while we're thinking about something else, like when you're walking down that path. For example, to mix my stories up now, and I can see that I'm going to be expanding this perhaps a little bit in the writing. This is what happens when I talk about what I do. Let's say you're walking down the path and your body is busy avoiding obstacles and people and putting on your clothing because it's getting cold. But out of the corner of your eye, and remember, you're inwardly focused. You are not paying attention to everything that's going on outside of you. Out of the corner of your eye, your unconscious mind, the part of you that's always scanning the environment for danger, because there is a part of your brain that does that, it's called the amygdala. Information comes in, the amygdala processes it to see if there's anything dangerous. The amygdala notices that person. They're actually there. You don't see them, but they're there. Suddenly, out of the blue, you're thinking about your thing that you're thinking about, and now you're angry and you're sad. And you have no idea why. You just are. And that totally can happen. That's why you can be walking along the road and boom, there's a flashback, or suddenly your emotion changes. You think, what the hell happened? Your brain recognized something, fired the memory, and off went the chemistry, and you're not even aware of it. That is our unconscious mind. And that is the 95% of us that we are not aware of. We literally are not aware of it. Because it's just become who we are. We don't think about reaching out to catch the ball when our friend throws it to us. And we don't think about walking down the path while we're thinking about whatever we're thinking about. We just do this stuff. And so the 95% of us that is unconscious is amazing. Because it's not just doing the walking down the path and the catching the ball and the giving us feelings. It's keeping you breathing. It's running the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of chemical reactions that are going on in your cells every single second. It's doing all that. It's coordinating and keeping you alive. Your whole body is being run by this amazing thing. It's called your autonomic nervous system. And that lives in the central part of our brain, which is called the limbic or the chemical or the survival or the mammalian brain. There's at least 4 names for it. And the reptilian brain, which is the habit brain, stores all the habits. Automatic, autonomic stuff. We don't think about it. It just happens. From running our body to walking down the path and not seeing anybody and being in our own mind. Because the walnut-shaped part of our brain that we're sort of familiar with, you see a picture of a brain, it's got all those crinkles and folds in it. That's where the conscious 5% of us lives. The other 95% lives in our chemical brain, our habit brain, and our body. And actually how our cells work. And I talked a lot about that earlier this year, about how our cells get conditioned to feeling a certain way. So not only does our brain have that memory that's stored in there, and it makes chemistry every time we think about it, our cells actually get used to that chemistry. So now we want to think a different thought and have a different feeling, and the cell says, I'm sorry, I need that chemistry to function. And I'm going to send some cravings. I'm going to send some cravings up to the brain, and it's going to be really hard to change. Because you got me used to being like this, and now you want it to be different? Are you kidding me? These are all reasons why it's hard to change. Because we just think, I want to make a different choice now. But you forget about the other 95% of yourself, where you've been choosing for years and years and years and decades, and, that's got to change too. To really change, you have to change this. You can't just make a decision and Bob's your uncle and Jane's your aunt. It's done. You got to change the body as well as the mind. You got to change the unconscious as well as the conscious. That's the game, and that's why change is so challenging. And I didn't understand this for so long. I wish I had understood it, but I do now. So, here I am talking about it. The other thing that I sort of realised with a bit of when I was writing, and I really haven't articulated this to myself or anybody before, is that the 5% of ourselves that we know about, right? The reason why that's what we can access is because it's in the thinking brain. It's in the part of our brain that we can access consciously, the crinkled walnut. The rest of it we can't access because it's in our unconscious brain, the mammalian chemical survival limbic brain, and the autonomic nervous system, the reptilian brain, the habit brain, it's in our body. We don't consciously get to be aware of all of that stuff. Not normally, right? Not usually. We're aware of what we think about. A lot of people are just completely not aware of what their body is doing. They think, I want to walk, I want to talk. They give the commands and the signals all with their conscious mind, and that's fine. But they're completely unaware of everything else that's going on in their body. And I mean, that's kind of normal. I'm busy, you think about a hunter-gatherer. I'm busy gathering food, hunting food, protecting myself, and staying aware of my environment to make sure nothing comes and kills me. Of course the focus is all outward and it's all about survival, but now it's different. So that 5%, we only have access to that with our conscious mind. The thing that has made the vast difference to me is to realize that I can learn to access my unconscious mind. That's why I've been blithering on about brainwaves. You actually, because if you're thinking and if your brain is working in beta, then you're in your conscious mind. You are nowhere near your unconscious mind or your operating system. If your brain is in alpha, then you're getting a bit closer. Alpha is sort of conscious and unconscious. It's a bridge. It's in between. If you can get into a good space of alpha and you're really relaxed, now and your brain slows down. So you're mostly in alpha. Now you can start to have effects. That's why people do relaxation and, guided meditation and all that stuff. If you can slow your brain down even further into theta, there's nothing going on in the conscious part of your brain. All of your attention, I can't really explain this very well yet, but all of your attention, and it took me a while to figure this out because I was doing it, right? I mean, this is the meditation that I have learned to do from Dr. Joe Dispenza. He explains it differently, but this is me explaining it my way. As I've learned to slow my brain waves down, I know what the different brain states feel like, and I can feel particularly when I go from alpha into theta. There is a moment when I think, I feel sleepy now, but I'm not going to go to sleep, and I'm in theta. I know what my brain does. I know how it feels. And what I understand now is that when I'm like that, the part of my brain that has to be busy to make lots of beta brain waves just isn't. It's not dead. It's not like there's nothing going on in there. But because I'm mostly making theta and alpha brain waves by that stage, it's quiet. So all the yammering in my mind that says you can't, it's impossible, it'll never change, is blissfully gone. Now, I can still have all of those thoughts. I open my eyes, and my challenge is to practice remembering how I felt when I had my eyes closed and I could turn all that chatter off. Believe me, sometimes it gets really loud inside my mind. Because there are things in my environment that go boom or ping, and those neural nets that say, you can't, this is never going to change, it's impossible, you'll never do this, just give up, stay where it's safe. Notice that. Survive, don't thrive, don't actually live, just stay with what you know because it's safe. Those voices get really, really loud. And when they get really loud, I have to remember, this is my conscious mind. I got to somehow slow myself down again. I've got to get out of that high beta state. So just having the understanding of how it works and then some tools to actually change it, but to know that it's possible. I didn't know it was possible. I did not understand this about myself, and I didn't know that you could change. Now I do. And now, a little bit, you do. Knowing about it is not the same as doing it. It's not the same as practicing it. But what you find, if you get determined, is that if you practice, like anything, you get better at it. You develop a skill. And it's an awesome skill to have. I'm just checking. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I'm just checking that I hadn't missed anything important. That we don't normally get to access our 95% body mind. It just runs the show for us. And that's great when it's helping us to walk and move and breathe and do everything that we do, but it's not so great when it's running self-destructive programs and it's limiting, or we feel afraid for no reason, or angry for no reason, or whatever. Those things live in our body mind. if we understand that they do, and that we have to access the part of our operating system that allows us to change what's going on in our body mind, well, then it's worth learning how. But you've got to actually understand that's possible and why that's important, you know. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Thank you so much for joining me. It's so nice having you give your time, your attention, and your energy to this information. I'm going to be back next week with some more. Actually, I got to the end of this and I thought, what the hell am I going to write about next? Because I've been thinking about this chunk, getting to here, for a long time. It's like, oh, hell, what now? There's plenty more. I've just got to work out. I've actually got to tune in and figure out receive what the next step is. Because I don't know. My conscious mind does not know right now. The part of me that is connected to all of the information, it knows. And it'll tell me when I tune in. So thank you for joining me. If you're on YouTube, thank you for hanging in. And I invite you to like and share and subscribe and check me out on Patreon, because it doesn't cost much to support this project and you get bonuses when you do. So I'll be back next week. Until then, lots of love. Bye-bye.